What are you doing, bro?
Oh man, I was just sitting here thinking about like buttons, man. Like
Buttons.
I know it sounds weird, but
Like
like I'm on
red button?
my phone. It doesn't have any buttons anymore.
That's
What the
true.
screen is just one large button. There's no click
I mean, they're like kind of buttons. They're
ish,
like
right? I mean, kind of
pretendy
like the
buttons.
volume buttons on the side. But I was thinking about how that links to like push button society. You know,
Oh,
we used to
yeah.
say, "Oh, push button society." And I was like, "Oh, that doesn't really apply anymore." And I was thinking about how kind of things about us like change quite a bit over time when introduced to things like instant gratification.
Oh, love me some instant
Oh, we
gratification, man.
all
Oh,
do. We all do, you know.
that's my shit.
And push button society for a long time, like in the 80s and 90s, we were talking about, oh, hey, we're able to get all of this stuff so much faster, and
Oh, I didn't realize that term is so old.
yeah. I mean, it's been around for a while, you know. So like push button society was a thing that heads were talking about for a while there,
Yeah.
and just kind of like it's just kind of taken a backstage, and most people will hear it. It's like a
Yeah,
colloquialism,
it's kind of
whatever.
like this thing that I understand is like, you know, one of the things that we describe. It's almost been politicized at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's become one of those things that kind of is backseat. We don't think about it very often
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
and I feel like personally, I feel like the reason behind that is that we have so much data to go through, and everything is so much faster than it's
So fast.
ever been before. Like, like think about this. Okay, let's in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
If you were not in the vicinity of someone and you wanted to communicate with them, there was only really one way to do that, and that was to write a letter
And
and
send
hand
it
it.
with a pigeon.
No, I mean, oh, fair enough. There was definitely pigeon communications. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give that to you. I was thinking more along the lines of like, you write a letter and you hand it to a dude who literally stuffs it into a bag and puts the bag on a horse or in a trailer, or
Yeah,
I'm sorry, a wagon, and then
yeah.
totes that physically over the
Just
desert
Oregon
hundreds of
trails it
miles.
all the way over there.
Yeah, totally. Like you can a letter takes 3-4 weeks, maybe a year to get where it's going if it's going to land there at all.
Dear Sally, I hope that the postman didn't die on the way to get you.
Exactly, right. And now I want to talk to somebody in Japan. I pull my pocket computer out and I'm
Yeah,
like, guy in Japan, hello Japan, how's it going in Japan? And they get it like, oh hey, it's instant, and they're like,
yeah.
oh dang, hey look, and then they instantly send it back. Like the
Shoot.
communications between people, just a couple of 100 years, and we're talking about
Yeah.
the difference is literally instantaneous.
If you brought somebody from the
Oh,
1800s into the
magic.
future, they would think it was witchcraft.
Yeah, magic for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just a computer in your pocket is magic. Everything that you would have, like, I mean, I know that you wouldn't be able to access, say, like, you wouldn't be able to access Google if you had your phone, like
Yeah.
in those times,
Yeah.
But I mean, just the fact that you could turn on a thing in your pocket that it produces light,
Mm-hmm.
you're already a witch. You know what I mean? You turn the thing on and it makes any noise or flashes at all,
Yeah.
and you're toasted.
Yeah, yeah.
You're done. And when I mean, like toasted, like literally, like
Not to mention,
on a pyre with some fire.
You have these like mathematicians over here with their like notebooks and they're like jotting down, and you're over here like, oh, what's the square root of 3,556? Got it right there.
Yeah.
They're like a week later, they're like, oh yeah, that's right.
They just instantly erect a pyre around you where you're sitting and just light you on fire on the spot. There's not even need for a witch trial. They're all like, y'all saw it, he's a witch, burn him.
No instant gratification for them. Instant witch burning.
Yeah, they're instantly burn you as a witch. Ha 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 ha. No, okay, so I guess what I'm trying to drive at is that like back in the day to get the gratification of communication, it takes much longer. Or like nowadays we have the ability to, hey, I have a question. And you can just pull your phone out of your pocket and you're like, Google what's the answer to this. It gives you a couple of different references that you can look through and choose your fate.
Dude, not to mention the AI chatbots now.
Yeah.
Man, talk about the acceleration of things. It might be that technology increases in speed and formation, and so we are like trying to keep up with it. You know, we're almost
I don't think we ever
subject
really
to it.
keep up with it. I think that we're always kind of, I think that human beings in general are always kind of in awe of the next thing that comes. And
Yeah.
because the next thing that comes after that thing
Mm-hmm.
we are in awe of that as well. So the things that the technological advance, because of its speed and the fact that it is quickening.
Yeah.
Our technology is lending itself to the creation of faster technology,
Yeah.
and that process is speeding up and will speed up exponentially.
Yeah.
It will continue to speed up exponentially because we already proved that it is doing so currently,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
has over the period. But anyways, I'm sidetracking. Sorry. I want to return to my point, which was when we are doing the when we're doing almost the conversion to the newer like operating systems of existence as humans,
I like that
we
analogy.
continue getting these things like the cell phone and the Google, and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
well, I have a question, I'm going to ask Google. Hey Google, what's the answer to this question? Even when I was younger, we didn't have the internet in every home, let alone computers. And only specific people who had money and ability and technical know-how would even really knew enough to put computers on their shelves at home, on a
Mm-hmm.
desk at home. So the only way really to get this information was almost literally to go find a book that you think might have the data you're looking for.
Yeah.
And
Encyclopedias, right?
generally, that's one way. That's one way for sure. But generally speaking, you would go to the library,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was your school library or your local library, and you would go to a section, or you would go and you would look at a card
Catalog, right?
catalog
Yeah.
with a Dewey Decimal System,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you'd already have to know what books you're looking for to even consult the oracle of where said books were,
Yeah.
right?
Other
So
than
this
the
is
oracle
already
that is the library.
more complicated than most folks today would really want to mess with, right? So then you got to go and pick out, okay, well, I want I don't know that any one of these books is going to have the data that I want. So you had to gather like 5, 10, 15 books off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Take them and sit down and open each book and leaf through the carcasses of dead
So
trees
much
in
time.
search of the knowledge. You have to
Uh,
read. It's like, oh my
TLDR,
God.
bro.
You got it. So, right? So exactly. So like nowadays, we can just pull this out. And that's in one generation. That's one generation of speed. Instant gratification currently
Yeah.
versus, you know, 20, 30 years difference.
Oh,
All of a
I see what
sudden
you're
you
saying.
have you have the you go from card catalogs and physical having to go to a library,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't return your books, you have to start paying. And now there's this whole archaic system of libraries that very few people go to,
Mm-hmm.
that we're still funding, thank God, because there are lots of people that still don't have the technological advance to have Google in their pocket.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so there are still people that are using libraries, either for, what we're talking about that right there, or they're going to the library to use computers, to go on to access online, which is a lot of things. They also go there to get comic books or
Mm-hmm.
movies.
Mm-hmm.
Most libraries have moved into the digital age, so you can go there and get current media
Yeah.
as well as aged media printed on the corpses of dead trees.
Yeah. Right now, you can go onto like the Stanford, I think it's Stanford website, and rent for free their books like
Yeah.
online. You don't
Yeah,
even
you
have to
can watch
go
you
there.
can watch most major colleges have their
Mm-hmm.
lectures online where you can sit and watch. And sure, you don't get accredited, but I mean that's
But
like
the
people
knowledge.
are like that's knowledge. And
Yeah.
it's right there at the tip of our fingers. And
Mm-hmm.
and we as a society, we as a people have yet to truly embrace the fact that every one of us has so much knowledge at the tip of our fingers, so much power in the moment to instantly have our questions answered, to instantly be made more aware. And this also leads to, say, like current media's ability to reach each and every one of us, because
Mm-hmm.
they can measure our response instantly through our views, our view duration, our search histories.
Yep.
So in a moment they can turn that they turn that into an algorithm in a moment turns that into your next viewed thing. So they can really put data in front of you
It's
in a
pretty
much
amazing,
quicker way.
actually.
Yes.
Like the the method by which they do that is so like fantastic. Like as somebody who really likes algorithmic processes and computation, they the way that they do that, they create like a profile of you. So
Sure.
you have there is a you
And
that is the online you.
I'm sorry, I have just so we don't get off on too much of a tangent. I have to say though that those are very rarely have anything to like your name on them. Those
Oh,
very
no.
rarely have anything
mostly like
other
your
than
IP
your
address.
viewing. Yeah. This area, this person in this area is
Yeah.
viewing these things, and the algorithm is never like a lot of people like, oh well, they have all of your information. They can. It's like, yeah, I mean, if they wanted to, they could really do a deep delve on you. But
Yeah.
these algorithms and these corporations and Google, they don't give a fuck about who you are personally. All they want is access to that data to
Yeah.
make their algorithms better.
You
So
are
not saying that's good, not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's the real behind it. I'm so sorry.
You are
You were
not
saying?
Barrett. You are. Yeah, exactly. Your user profile is like 20% X demographic, 30%, you know, this gender identification, you know, and so on and so forth. Like maybe your political leanings or things of that nature. Where you live.
Yes, that's very true for algorithms like YouTube or
Facebook.
TikTok or Facebook.
Mhm.
Those are algorithms that are doing what you're saying. Whereas like things like Google and these mega corporations that are collecting your data, they're more interested in your socioeconomic classification.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so if you're how much money are you spending online? You know, like the area that you're coming from has this is generally this demographic. You generally like houses cost this much, land is this much, rent is generally in this area. So those are the demographics that they're going to be like, okay, well these folks are spending their money in this way. They are not investing. They are investing. They're doing this. They're not doing that. And that way they can get the stuff that you are going to buy in front of you.
Yeah.
Not just the stuff that they know you want to view, like YouTube wants you to view. It wants you to spend more time on their platform.
And that kind of brings us back to the number one, the push button. Number two, the instant gratification. They get that thing in front of you. They give you a button.
Yep.
You push it. You get gratification. Like,
yeah.
You're like, I didn't know I wanted this thing, but now that I'm looking at it, sure, I could sure use that. And that blender in my kitchen or juicer or whatever.
Well, with the push button instant gratification society currently being in the state that it is in, we have the ability just to walk to the fridge and open it up and get some cold drink. We have the ability just to walk over to the sink and push and pull a lever, and we have warm or cold water. We use the restroom. We hit a button. Our waste is taken away from us and dealt with. Everything, you know what I'm saying? We come inside of a domicile that we can lock our doors behind us. We can feel safe. You know what I'm saying? We at the push of a button, we have safeness. We feel we do. You know, we have the ability to go to the store. We no longer have to kill for our food if we choose not to. So we can just go to the store and buy our chicken or our beef pre-cut up, ready to go. Shoot, we can even buy it pre-cooked. Moving that cursor even closer to the line. You want food, you can walk in and microwave it. You don't even got to cook anymore.
30 seconds, you're fed, dude.
You're 30 seconds, you're already eating some warm nutrition that you spent 10 minutes that you've spent 10 minutes getting. Whereas you harken back to say a couple depending on who you ask, hundreds of thousands of years when we were very first in this physical format that we shall call human. This genealogical makeup that is currently us at its first iterations, living in caves, wandering around, basically hunter-gatherer out of a cave. You know what I'm saying? To get food at that point in time, you're walking for hours. You're exposing yourself to danger.
Throw a spear.
Or as a hunter, you're running around, you're chasing animals, you're setting traps, you're covering vast distances, and in order to achieve
basically
these foods.
Naked and afraid. Basically naked and afraid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you have this massive caloric expenditure
Mm-hmm.
to achieve calories, and that's basically you spend your whole life on the very edge of needing more calories,
Yeah.
keeping warm. All of your only the most basic things are really being covered in your daily life.
Is that the root of gratification?
You've hunted the food and now you're sitting down to eat the food. That is, I would say, the root. I would say that that is the most basic form of gratification
Yeah.
outside of the more rudimentary, like lizard brain thing, which would be like orgasm.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm hungry right now, so I'm thinking about food.
Yeah, I mean the desire to
More hungry than thirsty, I guess.
oh bazanga, as one would say, good sir.
Oh,
Well
I kill
played,
me.
well played. 10 points on that one,
Oh,
my friend.
yes. That covers my minus 10 points from.
That's right. That's right. Breaking even finally. Good stuff. Good stuff.
You know, with the main problem that I see happening, I guess I shouldn't list it as like a problem, but it is kind of problematic, at least, to see so much misinformation going around. Like, and it's real easy because we're moving so fast, you know?
It's almost like people can't be asked to go and double check whether a
Yeah.
fact is true.
What are you talking
If
about? I
they
have 1,000 things to do today. You want me to like read something?
well,
Like,
I
I don't
mean,
have
those,
time for
and that's
that.
the funny thing is like, well, only because we live in the current day are those 1,000 things even a possibility, you know? So
Yeah.
it's weird the kind of shift in what we believe is truly important versus what I would say almost prehistoric humans had
Mm-hmm.
to go through. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they may not even eat after doing a bunch of work to eat. You know,
Right.
if they
Right.
even live to the age where they can procreate, actively, where they're actually adding to the gene
I
pools. You
was thinking
know,
about this today, man. Like we can survive 3 weeks without food, which means you can totally go 20 days without eating food and like survive. Am I right about that?
okay, so that's all relative
Uh,
to what happened before the 21 days.
okay. So
Right?
what I'm
That's also
oh yeah,
relative to
if
your
you like
body
ate.
type. That's also relative to to how much energy is necessary to maintain your body in those 21 days.
Oh, like if
If
you've been
you're
running or
laying in a
whatever.
cool
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, if you're laying in a place that is conductive to your body heat,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you're never too cold, you're never too warm, you're
Mm-hmm.
in a place where you can just chill out, you don't have to like run around, you don't have to expend any temp,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be fine for 21 days. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay.
But I mean, it'll hurt, it'll suck, you'll hallucinate,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be crazy, it'll be painful, you'll be experiencing what I would say theologically would equate to a living hell.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it would not be something you would want to do. You know what I mean?
Meanwhile, I go
Also,
6 hours without eating, and I'm like, I am
yeah,
dying right now.
yeah,
I cannot
perspective.
survive without this food.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Absolutely, that's a good hark back. You're totally true. It's like nowadays we think, oh, because of the fact that very few of I'm sorry, I shouldn't make quantifications that I can't verify. I would actually have to say that from my experience, most of the people that I've met, they eat at least once a day. Even the most poor people that I've met still get a meal at least every couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and those guys they're not doing very well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, still, in retrospect, is it as bad as say, back in the day when we had folk? Well, I think we probably still do have folks in like third world countries that die of exposure and that die of starvation on the regular.
Yeah.
To think
Totally.
otherwise, what would be incredibly
Yeah,
ridiculous.
when we're talking about this, push button society, we are really
Yeah.
talking about the first world here.
Yes,
You
we
know,
are. Yeah,
there's
that's a very fair point. We
there's a
talk.
distinct separation between the push button society
Yeah.
and the real
Well, it's all real.
hunger.
It's all real. It's
Yeah,
all real.
it's all real.
The,
Yeah.
the hunger that we feel, say, when we haven't eaten in 6 or 8 hours, that's still a real hunger. We can't say, oh, because there are other folks out there whose hunger
It's greater than mine, maybe.
is to the point where they die from it,
Yeah.
then that in some way, shape, or form negates that I too am hungry, say in a lesser degree. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't take away from our hunger. What that does enable us to understand, however, is that we cannot really grasp what that struggle is like to
Yeah.
try and exist in a place where you are so hungry that you're eating bugs, that you're eating what could very possibly be diseased food because it's better than your guaranteed starving death. It's
Yeah.
much better to be alive and sick
Yeah.
than it is to be dead from not eating something that could have made you sick. Like this is these are the hardest of quandaries.
Yeah.
These are the most intense of human experiences that we have a tendency to kind of shy away from looking at because they're so uncomfortable because they
Yeah.
make us feel so pathetic. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what are my problems in comparison to like someone who's dying of starvation and eating street slime?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Wow. Yeah.
versus like, oh, I can't have, like, oh, I'm lactose intolerant, so now I can't have fucking dairy. I want to die. It's like, shut up, bro. Like, are you like, grow up, my guy?
That's
Like,
my hell. That's
dude,
the hell that I
me
live in.
too. Me too. I developed
Which I feel like is worse than
because
just
like, yeah,
being born with it.
I was
Yeah.
exposed my whole life to
Yeah.
delicious milk, and now I can't have any lactate of or any lactose of any kind
Yeah.
without excruciating. Well, I say excruciating without pain that's completely bearable, but still completely annoying. So I wanted to get dramatic there. I really did. I had to talk about it.
Relative, right?
Yeah,
Relative
right.
to
Absolutely. Well said.
you. Okay. Here's the question. When did the push button society begin? I know they started talking about it in the
Oh.
80s, but like when
I
did it
think
really
that's
begin?
I think that's when we first started recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And from my perspective, looking back and what I think that I know, I would say that as soon as technology started becoming a thing, as soon as we began developing technology, we were able to expedite something that took a short amount of time, and that became the norm. And then from there, I wouldn't say that it started there, but I would say that technology is such a quickening
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's the core. That's the pea in the pea under the pillows, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak.
Yeah.
Princess and the Pea. It's like it's the small thing that kind of is.
Oh, I just got an idea or a thought maybe. Maybe so we had I can't remember 20s, 30s, something like that. We got Freud coming on the scene, psychoanalysis. Freud had some kooky ideas, but he had some really great ideas when it came to psychology. Really reinvigorated the field.
Okay.
And I think that led to a boom in the advertisement industry where we were much more efficient at convincing the consumer to buy our product.
uh, the advertising became this really crazy thing. Like before that, we knew how to advertise.
Yeah.
Oh, buy these soaps
Yeah.
on the radio in the 20s.
Have you
We
seen
had
them?
advertising, but it wasn't as divisive
If,
as it was from the 40s into the 50s. Now, as they were doing that, they honed
mm-hmm.
how people received these images, and it became this thing where the corporations were putting a ton of money
Yeah.
into the development of how images and stuff affect us,
Mm-hmm.
and how if they can get those things into our subconscious, that we will subconsciously, anytime we see a Coke can, we'll
Yeah.
want to go buy some Coke. It looks refreshing. The can itself is designed to look refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. And not like if you look at the advertisements of like the 1920s, or maybe later on, that's a little early. But if we look at the ones where like early television, and you'd see like the CEO of the company would come out and be like, I'm the CEO of Peanuts Industries, and I love peanuts.
Our family has been growing peanuts for
Yeah.
10,000
From
years, and
like
our
logos, ethos, pathos,
yeah,
that's ethos. Like we have
yeah.
authority over peanuts, basically.
Yes, we know everything there is to know, so we obviously know what we're making. They were
Yeah.
offering factual data versus something where nowadays
It's more pathos. It's more emotion.
you, bingo, my friend,
Yeah.
bingo.
Yeah.
Because if they can get us where we feel like that thing, or like I just said, that a Coke can looks refreshing.
Yeah.
Both of those are feelings.
Yeah.
If something
Or at least it's a
looks, you're jumping to
quantification
a
of the feeling.
conclusion. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're having, what I'm saying, or you're like, I have a feeling about that, or that looks pleasing. That's an opinion.
Yeah.
That's a feeling.
That's totally a feeling.
You know what I'm saying?
Pleased is the feeling. Like
You got it.
in its nature.
Refreshed
Refreshed
is a feeling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, I feeling about this feeling because of this image.
Yeah. And like, advertisement's a big part of media, no matter where you go. You go YouTube,
Yeah.
you go anywhere, you're going to be seeing advertisements.
Yeah, like clickbaits. Like
Mhm.
they're like, oh, this thing looks like one thing, and you walk into it and it's another. You have
Mhm.
like, and that's been happening for a while. I mean, I remember when when I was first out there looking for a job. I'm on the job
Mhm.
scene. And they're like, oh, come over here and check this out. And I'm like, okay, what's over here? And they're like, oh, come in. You have an interview. And I'm like, oh, cool, an interview. I want an interview. And so I go there. I'm all like spiffed up, and I come in, and there's like 20 other dudes, and we're all sitting in like lanes in front and back of each other in rows, and it's a
Oh,
presentation. And these motherfuckers are like, hey man, buy some knives and then sell some knives. Get other people to buy our
Oh,
knives.
God.
But first you gotta buy our knives. I'm like, wait a minute. So you want me to buy my knives and then sell my knives to somebody else? So all you're doing is selling me some knives, and then it turns out,
good.
oh, this apparently, later on in life turns out to be what we call a pyramid scheme, and they're
Mhm.
totally illegal now.
Yeah.
But when I was younger and on the scene at first, they weren't illegal. They were everywhere. And until we realized and recognized that these things were bad, they were completely legal.
And exactly, and it wasn't even like that the government understood that pyramid schemes were bad. It was that the people became aware of this concept that is the pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Like,
and then then we voted. And then we voted on these things
Mhm.
as a populace, and,
Yeah.
and then we voted people into office who upheld these same ideas, and then that's when the laws then get changed, or there's an outcry, and then to appease their constituents, they will oftentimes be like, okay, well, we see that there needs to be a change here, and they want to be
Mhm.
elected next year, so they're going to make a motion on this and really push a lot of effort into getting this change. And now that this change goes in, then they've won the hearts and minds, quote unquote, and then
Yeah.
they get reelected.
Yeah.
This is how politics work. It's very
Mhm.
simple, very straightforward.
He
Contrary.
did what I like, so
I'm going to
put
vote
back
for him
in
again.
there.
Or he stands for what I stand for, so we're
Mhm.
going to vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, voting. That's a whole thing.
Yeah, we're probably not going to get too too delved into.
I think voting is its own thing, to be honest.
It is. Now we can talk about like as far as like we can talk about anything we want. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I would like to move more towards the direction of like the voting laws that are currently on the books are kind of archaic, because we currently live in a I want to say push button society, but we don't even push buttons, which is what you walked in on originally.
Right.
So this is what to say all of these things to say this,
Yeah.
which is that we as people have these pocket computers, and we could vote from our pocket computers. But back in the day, the way
Somebody does that, right?
lots of
Georgia?
places do,
Switzerland?
lots of people do, lots of
Iceland, maybe.
Sure. I don't want to pull anybody out of the hat, but I can say for a fact, not exactly who, because I'm a space cadet,
Mhm.
but I know for sure there are several actual full country governments that you can that all of the government interaction
Mhm.
is done through a governmental profile that can be interacted with through your authorized phone.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, you can. I mean, you could. Oh, you basically. My point is that you have. We currently have the capacity to have highly encrypted, which means very, very safe communication
Mm-hmm.
directly with our government.
Yeah.
And these and our pathways are I'm sorry, I don't want to go there. I want to say that and put a period at it, and then
Mm-hmm.
I want to move to the corresponding side of the corresponding point, which is that these laws, these archaic laws, were put into place when we actually had to mail everything.
When we were, dear Sally, I hope my postman survives and
Yeah,
doesn't get dysentery on the
that's when
way.
we started these laws. You know, these specific voting laws are all based in
The
that idea.
postman had a kind of swollen toe. It looked a little green. Like he might not make it.
Totally.
Make sure to give him some medicine when he arrives.
So you got like you got the fact that or the idea of a centralized government comes from the fact that we couldn't communicate over large periods of time, or over
Yeah.
large distances. So we needed to have a centralized, like our overall government here in America. We
Mm-hmm.
have each individual state
Yeah.
kind of runs its own self for the most part, but then like the overall most important laws of our nation are
Yeah.
upheld federally from a place called Washington D.C., which is a city that exists in its own district. It does not have a state.
As yeah, District of Columbia.
District
They want to become a state.
Washington D.C. That's a whole can of worms. My whole point is that we put all of our government in this one place so they can all communicate together because of the fact that we used to not be able to communicate over large distances. See?
Yeah. Now we can
So
instantly.
now we can. We don't actually really even need a Washington D.C. anymore. We
Mm-hmm.
don't.
No.
We could all meet up and do all the necessary communication that we needed to via email and face calls and FaceTimes. All of this stuff could be handled technologically, but is no longer. But because of these archaic laws, we cannot update
It's
our.
systemic. Like the system has been built
Boom.
on this
Yes.
idea that isn't true ananymore.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an old idea.
But how do you go from one to the other?
One step at a time.
Fair
We as people, because of this underpinned instant gratification, we're like, yeah, but we just want to be able to flip a switch and have it go from shitty to fixed.
Yeah, that's
Like,
how it works.
if I can hit a switch in my house and have, volts of electricity instantly fucking activate any one of the many technological advances I have within my home, how come we just can't fix the government?
Yeah.
It seems fairly simple. All of us have our own ideas, and so like even the voting system could be updated because of the fact that you have all these voting things, and we have this guy that that was our president for a while, and he made some wild accusations about voter fraud and all this kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that could end gerrymandering, and all of that would go away
It's true.
if we simply started voting from our cell phones. We'd no longer be districts. All of the gerrymandering, all of the districts could go away. All of the stuff would be like okay, so you're from a county.
Mm-hmm.
You are now linked to that county. All the gerrymandering would be county by county, which means there would be no gerrymandering, although it would still be kind of gerrymandering.
Yeah, you could
A
still
little
do it.
bit, but you can't. But currently, to change the line of a county is so hard. In fact, I would go so far to say that it is bureaucratically impossible to change the lining of a county.
Yeah.
Without massive people being on the exact same page, which is why I say that it's bureaucratically impossible.
At least now, in modern America, yeah.
So my whole point currently, what I'm trying to drive at here, is that we're actually held back as a people because of our old ideals not being able to be updated. Because and so we're actually being hindered. We're actually being held back as a people and as a society and as a technological entity. We are being held back both individually and in the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And as the masses, we are being held back by these archaic fucking anchors that I would call law, that we call laws.
I see how it happened. Like first you're like looking at your phone, and you're like, push button society. Wait, there's no buttons. Oh my god, we've already gotten past push button. Like, and then we're still stuck on this old system that is built on things that are not true anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
and I would, and that's why when you came in, I just looked like I got donked upside the
Yeah, I
head
could
because
see it. I was like,
oh man,
oh my
yeah,
god.
it was pretty interesting. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And actually, like, while we're on that meta look at the thing, you know, it's not necessarily like because we can never get away from technology. I mean, people have been trying for a long time. We have all of these different parts of our society that have that have I want to say splintered, but that has its own little like connotations. But these people have decided to live differently and that moved away from using technology in their daily lives, you know.
Yeah.
And these people do embrace that and they do live that way, and there's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just simply what they chose to do, and that's good. This is
Yeah.
America.
Good for them.
So be it. That's called freedom.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, like we as people, me as a person, and the people that I've talked about different parts of this with all seem to be on a very similar page, which is it's very obvious that we are being hampered by a machine that we've designed to help us. And that the old ways of doing things, we can tell that we are moving exponentially quicker.
Yeah.
You know?
I like your idea because it. Oftentimes we talk about push button society and it's always this big negativity parade like, oh, it's terrible modern society, and it's like there are drawbacks and there's pros, you
Yeah.
know, to everything.
Well, that's life.
You know, and I your suggestion is kind of like we have this tool that would reinvigorate a system that is failing us currently.
Because anybody can get a phone right now.
Yeah.
In America right now, you can get a free phone, and all you gotta deal with is some pop-up ads.
Yeah.
Like this, you're stoked, bro. Like this here right now, you can have free text messages and free phone calls and free access to the internet as long as you're willing to deal with pop-up ads. And that's, I mean, as far as trade-offs, that's a pretty solid trade-off.
Pretty
You know,
solid trade-off.
which is to say that anybody could really ultimately have access to these things. Not saying that they necessarily have instant access to be able to charge the thing.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
even live in a place that has a supported infrastructure for cell phones. Although we're saying like a good 80 to 90% of America currently has a viable.
It's like crazy now.
Yeah.
Because we have Starlink, it's like pretty much everywhere.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and that just goes to show you that it's even hard for someone who's paying attention to the change to be aware of all of the change. It's so difficult, but still completely worth. You know, when we realize.
What are you gonna do? Listen to all the news every day?
Well, once we realize, well, instead of being reactionary towards a push button thing, where we're just being a push button human, we're just existing in this flow.
Yeah.
If we can stop for a second and we can recognize it, we can look at it, that we then gain the power, not necessarily over it, but we then gain the ability to look at the thing and have the realizations. And once you've had that realizations, you then know where you can move, where you were previously just reacting. Now you have a chance to be like, oh, like, I'm feeling down in the dumps today. I'm gonna watch some kitten videos. Before you recognize that we live in a push button society, you may not recognize that you can use this to your benefit. You're feeling down.
Use the tool.
Use the tool. You're feeling ignorant about a cause. You're feeling upset about a cause. You're feeling like this. You're feeling like that.
Get
you can
educated.
you can educate yourself on the button. You can take a Yale education course in whatever you want. You can go and use your time and energy to then overcome these obstacles that are created in front of you in a fashion that is unprecedented in human history. We right now, you yourself can push yourself so much faster.
Oh my God, yeah.
Than any human ever before us. We can, you know, and this is the thing is we're moving away from a centralized business structure where people have to show up to work every day and work 8 hours. After the COVID thing, now we have a ton of places whose brick and mortar are closing, which we see as a pretty negative thing, because
Plato said change comes from necessity.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden we're realizing that we as people can work from inside of our homes instead of having to go in, and now we can spend 3 or 4 hours being ultra productive, and then and now we don't have to work. Now we don't have to pretend to work for the rest of those 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you can lean, you can clean. It's like, okay, fine. So you know what I used to do is I used to just sweep the floor in a constant circle.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, anytime that guy's looking at me, I was always sweeping. Because if I didn't have something that I actually needed to do, I just had to look productive, then that's what I'd do.
Which is
nonsense. So instead we moved to this current scale, which is actually producing more time for us individually to spend educating ourselves and building our own hobby grade, you know, our own hobby.
Let's be honest, we as a culture are obsessed with productivity, efficiency, you know, from like a meta standpoint. Like as a culture, that's the direction that we're moving.
I would say you're right, because of capitalism and the fact that the almighty dollar generally runs our day-to-day life, and the demand to do so for eating and living inside of such a comfortable environment.
I wanted to mention that, like,
I didn't do that
because we kind of made it sound like, oh yeah, just go watch the Yellow video. Like, I'm not saying that that's easy.
No.
Like, no. I know it's way easier. And like, I'm party to it.
I'd much rather play a round of video games than go and watch an educational video because I'm feeling ignorant in a topic. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you
whatever.
want to, you can, and that's my point.
Yes. Yeah. And it's effort.
And realizing that's an option, I think, is actually my ultimate point.
Yeah.
Is realizing, oh, you know, like sometimes
it's on the plate.
For instance, I'm just going to use myself as an example because it's easy. So like for me, sometimes when I'm playing a video game, I'll be grinding for a while and grinding it out, and I'm feeling it, but then all of a sudden I'm like, And normally I'd game for a couple more hours, but hey, it's a bit early in the day, I'm not really feeling gaming. So instead, I'll be like, actually, you know, I was thinking about this thing. I'm going to go ahead and instead I'm going to go and just delve into a research chunk for the next couple hours while I still have the because normally time that I'd be energized and playing video games, you know, tapered off, go and do some research and stuff, because I realized that was an option. Before I realized that was an option, I'd be like, oh, well, there's nothing else to do, and I might as well just play video games for another couple hours till this or this happens, till dinner, or I'll just go veg out in front of the boob tube and watch some stuff that I'm not actually learning anything from.
I'm such a child. Boob tube.
Yeah, man.